Are you one of those people? Because a lot of people like to say that whatever they do creatively, there's some sort of spiritual component to it. Whether that is the same for you, are you one of those people that on your birthday you thank somebody for another year of life? Is that what happens?
Yes, I do. I think it's always spiritual with when you're dealing with human beings. You know, we have so many layers, and I feel like if you keep peeling back the onion, I believe there's a soul in there at the middle of the onion.
Would you say that music helps bring that soul out of you, or is it a variety of different things that do that?
I think music is the oral representation of the soul. So when you hear music, you hear in the soul of a person. And when you respond to music, that's souls connecting and sharing something about what it means to be human and be on this planet. Mm-hmm. There's a connection. There's a relation. It's like, oh, I'm hearing somebody's music and I'm hearing the experience. Like when I hear Bob Marley, you know, I'm hearing his experiences. I'm not just hearing like his guitar and his voice. It's like I'm hearing his soul. Or like the sound you hear when you hear Nina Simone sing and she sits down and plays a chord on the piano. And it's the same chord that Beethoven will play, and he plays it different. Or it's the same chord that you'll hear on a Nas record. You know, it's the same stuff. Mm-hmm. But why is it different when you know, it's only 12 notes? How is it that everybody has made such different things about it with the notes? So that's why I believe it's definitely a soul thing.
One of the things that I've always had these questions about in my head is, like, what is it when we're born, or maybe just the environment we're in, that makes us like the music that we like? So, because I remember I was 10, and the first album that I bought or had somebody buy for me was a Jay-Z album.
Yeah.
But, like, what in my head made me realize that that's the kind of music that I sought out? So I'm curious for you, like, when you think about that, when you think about the music you seek out or the music you seek to create, where do you think that comes from?
Oh man, I think it comes from God because it's just before time. Like I think every person had some sort of design or purpose before time, and then fate is just rolling out. But then there's also this idea that we have choices and free will, which is just this universal paradox that's very, very contradictory, but I think in some divine way it makes sense that I don't understand. But I think that ultimately we have these things that pull us because it's written before we even are here. We're just getting pulled to it. And it's like we have decisions to make, but all of the things that are pulling us we are predestined for.
Yeah. I mean, I'm somebody who is very much a Christian, very much believes in that there's another power out there that's controlling a lot of things. And I think for humans, a lot of us are always nervous about giving up control. But I feel like when you're a musician, that's one of the best times to lose control because, yes, there's certain notes on the page, and yes, there's certain things that you abide by. But when you include an element of live performance, there's a lot of things that are out of your control. And I can only imagine that enhancing the work that you do. Is that the case for you?
Definitely. I think it's all about embracing the fact that you can't control everything, which I think is a great metaphor for life. In live performance, you're creating a moment with the audience and you're creating a moment with the musicians. And you may have music prepared, but in particular with jazz, you don't know what's going to unfold. You have a theme and you have a direction and you have this body of work that you've listened to, and all the musicians have developed their skill to the highest level that they possibly can to bring to the moment so that they can be able to respond to anything, but you still don't know what that will be. Mm-hmm. And the audience is such a vital part of that because their spirit and the soul that they bring to it collectively influences the direction that the music goes in. So I think that that's something I've embraced for the whole of my time as a musician, just not knowing what's going to happen and being okay with that, loving that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think of all the musical genres that are out there, jazz is really the most interactive because, to your point, you have an audience there that's with however they react to it, not necessarily yelling, but there's I don't know the exact word to describe how people, like, they'll cheer whenever there's when somebody does a solo.
Yes.
And I can imagine that that's part of the joy of music making, where there's an intended audience, but when that audience is actually being a part of the performance, that's kind of it just makes you feel like you're doing the right thing.
It's really a thing that I kind of see it like what we're doing right now. It's a conversation where sometimes you won't like what the audience is giving you, and you'll want to change the reaction. Other times it's like what you're saying, where you'll feel like, oh, we're all in one accord. Let's stay in this zone for a while, and let's vamp on this beat, and let's rock on this for a minute. Or other times it'll be, I'm playing a solo, and the band is not playing what I want them to be playing, but the audience knows where I'm trying to go. So then I just have to get the band to come along. Or the band will want to go somewhere, and I won't hear it, and it'll be the place that we all should go, but maybe I have a blind spot in that moment for some reason. And that's really, it's all of these negotiations and any myriad of decisions that you're making at a moment's notice. And that's the beauty of really experiencing the conversation. It's not just to appease each other. You know, I want to be pushed. I want to be challenged. I want to be made uncomfortable. I want to make them uncomfortable. I want them to feel like, what's going on? Why are they playing this chord for so long? Why does that sound so wrong? I won't play a wrong chord until they like, oh, it's right.
I like that.
Or I want to play that chord until somebody walks out of the room, even if they're not the right energy to fit the room. You know, it's all about. I want to get in people. We break into this thing I call a love riot at shows sometimes, where we'll jump into the audience, take the audience out of the venue, and we'll go miles up the street with the audience in tow, like a procession. Thousands of people sometimes, so cool. And that to me is like another way of making people so uncomfortable or so welcome and so comfortable that then anything can happen in the space. I've seen people get on top of cars and dance.
That's so cool.
You know, I've seen people with sobbing, just like sobbing with joy, just like a certain kind of. I like to just break all of those conventional barriers of what a performance can be. And kind of like what we were talking about before, it's almost like a ministry. It becomes a ministry that you bring to people and you bring people into.
And much like the ministry concept that we're talking about now is also, you just referred to it about a conversation. And it's a conversation you have with the other musicians. It's a conversation you have with the audience. And it's a conversation you have with your instruments. Would you say that there is a conversation that you actively have with your piano when you're at your piano? And if it's a different piano than one you're used to, is it a completely different kind of conversation?
Pianos are people. Pianos are like any person you meet. They have souls in the sense that they're temperamental. If the weather is bad, a piano responds to that. You know, if it's been taken care of and it's been played a lot and has attention, it's easier to play. Whereas if it's been sitting in the corner for a while, it doesn't hold tune very well, or the keys may get stuck a lot. It needs some love. So I think there's always there's really a way to make almost any piano sing, but you just got to know how to approach it.